Ever wished you could just ask the universe, like, some big questions and actually get some straight answers?
Hmm.
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today.
Okay.
This book, Conversations with God, by Neale Donald Walsch. It's pretty wild, actually. He claims he actually spoke with God
Mm.
and then wrote this whole book based on, their conversations.
Yeah.
And our source material today is a video summarizing the book. Let's see what we can unpack.
Sounds fascinating. It's an intriguing premise for sure. You know, what's really interesting about it is that Walsh wasn't like always a spiritual seeker,
Right?
before all this. He was actually going through some really, really serious hardships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like business failures, a car accident, even homelessness.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's like he kind of hit rock bottom
Right.
and then decided to just kind of be like, hey, universe, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, he says he got an answer.
It's wild, right? So he's writing this letter to God, just filled with anger and frustration, demanding, explanations for all his misfortunes. And then boom, something totally extraordinary happens.
No?
So he claims this voice, which he, of course, attributes to God, started responding to him.
Wow.
Not audibly, not out loud, but as like this clear inner voice.
Like in his head?
Yeah, in his head. And this went on, get this, daily, for over a year.
Yeah.
And that formed the basis of like this whole Conversations with God trilogy.
Wow, that's incredible.
Right. I would love to like have that experience, that direct line to like the universe's customer service hotline. But okay, seriously.
Yeah.
What did they actually talk about? Was it just like, here's the lottery numbers for next week?
Not quite, no. The book goes into some really profound concepts. One of the core ideas that it explores is that the purpose of life isn't about, achieving some big goal or becoming wildly successful in the traditional sense, It's about actually just experiencing and feeling. Yeah, so we're essentially, as Walsh puts it, feelers for the universe or for God.
So it's not about the destination, but the journey. And all those feelings we have, good, bad, ugly, they all serve a purpose.
Yeah, precisely. The book suggests that every experience, whether it's joyful or painful, contributes to, a greater understanding of existence for us and also for, this higher power. It's like we're all individual threads woven into this vast cosmic tapestry, each adding our own unique color and texture.
Okay, I'm starting to get the bigger picture here. But, okay, so our purpose is to feel, to experience.
Yeah.
But how does God actually communicate with us? Is it like, those cheesy movies where someone gets struck by lightning
Yeah.
and suddenly they have, divine wisdom?
No, not quite that dramatic. According to Conversations with God, anyway, God speaks to us, or maybe I should say God feels through us, using emotions, thoughts, and experiences. Like they're a language. It's not about literal words booming from the heavens, but more like subtle nudges, gut feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, words really aren't enough to express, the depth of what we're feeling. So
Right.
how can we tell if it's just our own thoughts and feelings? Or if there's actually something more there, something divine behind them?
That's where things get really interesting, I think. The book dives into this idea that we're all actually fragments of God, experiencing life from our own individual perspective.
Okay.
We're all interconnected, pieces of a giant puzzle, each contributing to the complete picture.
So we're each a tiny piece of the divine, and our unique experiences, those are part of this bigger conversation.
Exactly. Think about it this way. If there was only one color in the entire universe, would we even be able to perceive it? No, right? The concept of color only exists because of contrast, because of separation. And the same goes for emotions, thoughts and experiences.
The diversity of all of our experiences allows for a richer, more complete understanding of the universe, even for God.
That's the idea. It's a pretty humbling thought, isn't it?
It is.
We're not just passive observers. We're actually active participants in this, grand cosmic dance of experience.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think differently about your place in the world. If we're all connected to this larger consciousness.
Yeah.
How does the book explain the concept of reincarnation?
Well, it suggests that reincarnation allows for continued growth and understanding. It's not about punishment or reward, but about the soul experiencing different lives, different perspectives, all to learn and evolve. Imagine being able to explore different roles, different planets even, all in the pursuit of deeper understanding.
So it's like we're playing this grand cosmic game of dress up, trying on different personalities and experiences.
Mm.
to gain a wider perspective.
In a way, yeah. And each lifetime, each set of experiences feeds back into that like larger consciousness, adding to that tapestry of, universal understanding.
That's a pretty wild concept, but
Yeah.
it also offers like a sense of hope, right?
Yeah.
It suggests that this life isn't the be-all and end-all. It's more like just a chapter in an ongoing story.
Right,
It
exactly.
only gives a whole new meaning to you only live once, haha. But what about all those negative emotions we go through, though? Are those also part of this, like, grand plan? Does the book talk about that?
It does. And this is where it really like challenges a lot of conventional thinking. Instead of seeing negative emotions as, something to avoid or suppress. Conversations with God suggest they actually hold valuable lessons too. Even feelings like frustration, sadness, anger, they can offer us insights into ourselves and our journey.
So it's not about labeling emotions as good or bad, but like understanding that they all serve a purpose.
Right.
Even the ones that
Yes.
make us feel kind of uncomfortable.
Exactly. You can see them as like signals almost, nudges from the universe, prompting us to examine our beliefs, our actions, and our direction in life. Think of it like, those uncomfortable feelings. They might be trying to tell you something, like a smoke alarm going off in your house, alerting you to a potential problem.
That's a good analogy. Okay, so if we're trying to listen to those emotional signals, how does that change how we think about prayer? Does the book suggest a new approach?
It does, and it might surprise you. The book suggests that, traditional prayer, where we're constantly asking for things, might not be the most effective way to connect with the divine.
Wait, so we shouldn't be asking for things. But what if we're, like, in need? What if we're struggling?
The book argues that constantly asking for things actually reinforces a sense of lack, like a sense of separation from the divine. It suggests that a more powerful approach is to actually focus on gratitude.
Okay, so instead of saying, please give me this,
Yeah.
we should be saying, like, thank you for what I already have.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, recognizing that we're already connected to a source of infinite love and support.
That's a pretty huge shift in perspective. It's about appreciating the good in our lives,
Yeah.
even amidst, challenges, and recognizing that we're already part of something much, much larger than ourselves.
Right. And that feeling of gratitude, that sense of connection to something greater, becomes a really powerful form of communication in itself. It's like tuning our frequency to align with, that of the divine.
So we're constantly communicating with God
Ah.
through our experiences and emotions,
Mm.
and we can strengthen that connection by focusing on gratitude. That's pretty powerful. But I'm curious about the author himself. Like, how did he go from this state of despair to becoming, a spiritual guide for millions?
Yeah.
What was his personal journey like?
That's actually what we'll explore next. Walsh's story is really a testament to the transformative power of questioning, of seeking answers, and of daring to believe in something beyond, like, our limited perception of reality.
Okay. Sounds like we've got a lot more to unpack. Let's dive back into conversations with God and see where Walsh's journey takes us.
Let's dive a little deeper into this whole God communicating through feelings thing. Walsh initially really struggled with the idea. He's like, why wouldn't God just use plain, simple language? Something that's easy to understand.
Yeah, I get that. If you're trying to, like, get a message across, why not just come right out and say it,
Yeah.
Using something as, like, subtle and nuanced as emotions seems kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's exactly what Walsh wrestled with. And the response he got, according to the book at least, was that human language is it's just too limited, almost like one-dimensional. It can't really fully capture like the complexity and depth of God's message.
So it's like trying to describe a symphony,
Mm-hmm.
but using only, like, one note.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. The book suggests that emotions are they're a much richer form of communication, capable of like conveying information on multiple levels. They can speak to our intellect, our intuition, even our soul, all at the same time.
That makes me think about those times when, like, words just fail us, when we experience, like, profound grief or, like, overwhelming joy. Sometimes, like, a simple touch or a shared tear can express more than, like, 1,000 words ever could.
Right, exactly. And conversations with God is suggesting that that's how the divine actually communicates with us on a grand scale. Those really intense feelings, those experiences that like move us to our core, those are like messages from the universe.
But how do we, like, interpret them? If we're constantly receiving these emotional messages, how can we tell if it's just, like, our own internal chatter or if it's a genuine message from,
Mm-hmm.
something bigger than ourselves?
That's the thing. The book doesn't really offer like a step-by-step guide for, how to decode these messages. Instead, it just encourages us to cultivate a deeper awareness of our own emotional landscape, to pay attention to those subtle nudges, those gut feelings that often guide us.
So it's about becoming more like fluent
Yeah.
in the language of emotions.
Yeah.
Learning to recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
And the whispers of intuition.
Exactly. It's like tuning in to that inner compass, that voice of wisdom that often speaks through our feelings.
But what about those times when, like, we're bombarded with negative emotions?
Mm.
Does that mean we're getting, like, a negative message
Yeah.
from the universe? Because that can be pretty discouraging to think about. That,
Yeah.
those really difficult feelings, those are like a form of divine communication.
Well, this is where, the whole concept of contrast comes in. Remember how we talked about how you need different colors to create a complete picture?
Yeah.
The book suggests we need those, contrasting experiences, those moments of darkness and light, to fully appreciate the spectrum of, existence.
So it's not about labeling emotions as good or bad, but about recognizing that they all serve a purpose. In our journey of growth and understanding, even like the challenging emotions can be valuable teachers if we're willing to listen.
Exactly. It's about embracing, that full tapestry of human experience, the joys and the sorrows, the triumphs, the setbacks, and recognizing that all of it contributes to our evolution.
Okay, I'm starting to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
This idea of emotions as a language. But I'm still curious about the whole, reincarnation concept.
Yeah.
How does that fit into this bigger picture of, communication and purpose?
Well, the book suggests that reincarnation allows us to continue experiencing, continue growing, gathering wisdom and understanding through multiple lifetimes. It's not about being punished or rewarded for past deeds or anything like that, but about the soul's evolution through diverse experiences.
So it's like we're on this grand cosmic adventure, trying on different roles, exploring different perspectives, all in the pursuit of, deeper understanding. It's like a giant, cosmic video game.
Yeah.
And we just get to keep playing and leveling up.
That's a great way to put it. And each lifetime, each set of experiences feeds back into that larger consciousness, enriching the tapestry of universal understanding.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that, death might not be the end, but a transition to a new level in this game of life.
Yeah.
So if we're all connected to this, larger consciousness, does that change how we should interact with others? Does the book address that at all?
It absolutely does. One of the key takeaways from Conversations with God is this whole idea of the interconnectedness of all beings. If we truly grasp this idea that we're all part of this, larger consciousness, it fundamentally changes how we view ourselves and how we view others.
It's like realizing that everyone we meet
Yeah.
is a reflection of the divine, like a piece of the same cosmic puzzle
Right.
that we're all trying to solve.
Exactly. It cultivates a sense of compassion and understanding, knowing that we're all on this journey together, learning and evolving through our interactions.
This book really challenges us to, rethink our relationships with ourselves, with each other, with the universe. Right. It's like a giant reset button for our entire worldview.
Yeah, and it invites us to question our assumptions about life, death, even the nature of reality itself. It's not about, blindly accepting a set of beliefs, but about engaging in a dialogue, exploring these ideas with an open mind and heart.
We've talked a lot about receiving messages from the universe, but what about sending messages back? If prayer is about more than just asking for things, how does this book suggest we actually connect with the divine?
That's a great question. And this is where the whole concept of gratitude comes in. The book really emphasizes the power of gratitude as a form of communication with the divine.
So not begging, not pleading, but expressing appreciation for what we already have.
Yeah.
Even amidst, challenges and difficulties.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the abundance that's already present in our lives and aligning our energy with that sense of gratitude. It's a way of acknowledging our connection to the source of all creation.
It sounds like a shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, acknowledging that we're already connected, to a source of infinite love and support.
And by expressing gratitude, we actually strengthen that connection, allowing the flow of divine energy to move more freely through our lives.
This has been a truly mind-expanding exploration of Conversations with God. We've covered so much, from the purpose of life to the nature of reality, reincarnation, the language of emotions. But I'm still really eager to hear more about the author himself. How do you go from feeling lost and angry to becoming this, like, spiritual guide for millions. What was his personal journey like?
Walsh's story is like a really powerful testament to the transformative power of questioning,
Hmm.
of seeking answers, and of daring to believe in something beyond, our limited perception of reality.
His experience offers, like, a glimmer of hope for anyone struggling with those big questions about life, purpose, and the existence of, something greater than ourselves.
Absolutely. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always the possibility of like a profound shift in perspective, a moment of awakening that can change everything.
I'm really eager to hear more about Walsh's transformation and the impact his book has had on the world.
It's a remarkable story about how one man's quest for answers led to a spiritual awakening that continues to inspire millions around the globe.
All right, are you ready to dive back into the book and explore the final chapter of this extraordinary journey?
Absolutely. Let's uncover those insights and lessons learned from Walsh's personal transformation and the profound ripple effects it created.
Okay, so we've been exploring some pretty wild concepts from conversations with God, the purpose of life, the nature of reality, even reincarnation. But I'm really curious to learn more about, like, the author himself, Neale Donald Walsch. He wasn't always, a spiritual teacher, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. He wasn't. Before Conversations with God,
Yeah.
Walsh was living like a pretty conventional life. He had a successful career in radio and journalism. He even started like his own businesses. He was, living what a lot of people would consider the American dream.
So what happened? What led him to, like, this total shift in perspective?
Well, life kind of threw him some curveballs. His businesses failed, his marriage ended, and he was in a really serious car accident that left him with a broken neck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he lost basically everything, and he ended up homeless, facing a level of like despair that most of us can only imagine.
Geez, that's quite a fall from grace. It's no wonder he was just, like,
Yeah.
filled with anger, questioning everything.
Exactly. He felt like, the universe was conspiring against him, and that desperation, that, feeling of utter brokenness, that's what led him to write that really raw, angry letter to God, just
Yeah.
pouring out all his pain and frustration.
And that's when that voice, the one that he attributes to God, started responding to him,
Yeah.
setting him on this, like, extraordinary path.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't just about like receiving answers. It was about engaging in a genuine dialogue, a back and forth conversation that really challenged his like deepest beliefs and assumptions.
I can only imagine how, like, overwhelming that must have been. Did he ever doubt what he was experiencing? Did he ever think, like, he was losing his mind?
Oh, absolutely. He questioned his sanity at times, wondered if he was making it all up, even tried to like dismiss the whole experience. But the communication persisted, and the insights he received were just like too profound to ignore.
So how did these conversations transform him? How did he go from feeling, broken and lost to becoming this spiritual guide for, like, millions of people?
I think those conversations with God, as he describes them, completely like shattered his previous worldview. They challenged everything he thought he knew about life, purpose, the nature of reality.
It's like his whole reality was deconstructed
Uh-huh.
and then rebuilt, using a whole new set of blueprints.
Exactly. He started to see his struggles not as punishments, but as like opportunities for growth and learning. He embraced the full spectrum of human experience, realizing that even pain and suffering could hold valuable lessons.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's about, like, finding meaning in the journey itself, even when, the path is really difficult.
And that's the message he shared with the world through conversations with God. He wasn't preaching from a position of authority or claiming to have like all the answers. He was simply sharing his own experience, inviting others to question, to explore, and to engage in their own dialogue with the divine.
Yeah, his vulnerability,
Mhm.
his willingness to, like, share his own struggles must have really resonated with a lot of readers. It makes these, like, really profound spiritual concepts feel more relatable, more human.
Absolutely. He wasn't presenting himself as like some, enlightened being,
Yeah.
but as a fellow traveler on the path, stumbling and learning along the way.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we don't need to have it all figured out. The journey itself, with all its twists and turns, that's the real teacher.
And that journey is unique for each of us. Walsh's story, it's not meant to be like a blueprint to follow, but an inspiration to trust our own inner guidance, to have the courage to ask those, big questions, and to be open to receiving answers in like unexpected ways.
This deep dive into conversations with God it's been a real mind bender, hasn't it?
It has.
It's challenged us to think differently about life, death, our place in the universe.
It certainly has. And it reminds us that the universe it's constantly communicating with us, often in really subtle ways through our feelings, our experiences, even those moments of, challenge and uncertainty.
So as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave our listeners with this question. What feelings have you had lately that might be trying to tell you something? How might paying attention to those feelings, to that inner wisdom, shift your perspective? Perhaps those emotions hold the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of yourself, your purpose, and your connection to something far greater than you ever imagined.
And remember, you don't have to have all the answers. The journey of discovery is what truly matters. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening to those whispers of the universe.
Beautifully said. Until next time, stay curious and keep diving deep and moy.